Hey, good evening and welcome back to Answers on Eschatology. My name is Dan Derry and I'm the president of the Institute of Fulfilled Eschatology. Hey, I want to share some more thoughts regarding the coming of the Son of Man just like the days of Noah with you this evening. Now, if you recall from yesterday's video, we ended by suggesting that this coming of the Son of Man at the end of the age in Jesus' generation was the judgment of the world of flesh. That is, it was the judgment of Old Covenant Jerusalem that represented the flesh world, as opposed to the world of spirit or the New Covenant world. And the reason we came to that conclusion is, number one, we went to Genesis 6:13. Remember, Jesus said the coming of the Son of Man, this judgment would be as the days of Noah. Well, the judgment in the days of Noah was the end of all flesh. Jehovah said in Genesis 6:13, the end of all flesh has come before me, and he would destroy the wicked with the earth, with that world, that cosmos. And we know that according to 1 Peter, it was the world of the ungodly, the system of that ungodly world that was destroyed, and the sinners perished with it. And Peter says in 1 Peter 4:7 that the end of all things was at hand, a direct allusion to Genesis 6:13. Therefore, in Peter's mind, this judgment that was coming upon them, which marked the end of the Old Covenant world, was the end of all flesh. It was the fulfillment, it was the antitype to the flood in Noah's day, just like Jesus said. That judgment would be the end of the age, the end of an Old Covenant world, and the end of the world of flesh. And like we said, as opposed to the world of spirit, to the New Covenant kingdom in Jesus Christ. Now, it's going to take a couple videos to really bring this out, but I want to take a look at Matthew 24:39 through 41, and I believe that Jesus, right in these very verses, is communicating this very thing. And this is going to really set us up for what we get into in 1 Peter in the next video. So watch this. I'm going to read verses 37 through 41 of Matthew 24, and I believe we can see very clearly the covenantal significance that Jesus intends us to understand. Watch this. Matthew 24:37. For the coming of the Son of Man will be just like the days of Noah. Okay? It is the same type of judgment. It has the same covenantal significance, in other words. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark. And they did not understand until the flood came and took them all away. So will the coming of the Son of Man be. Watch this. Here's what I'm after, verses 40 and 41. Then, when in that judgment, there will be two men in the field. One will be taken and the other left. Two women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken and the other left. Now, watch this. Jesus, whether or not man and woman or man and women is in the original Greek is really besides the point, because man and women are implied by the context. Two in the field represents two men, okay? The field was where a man went to till. This was generally the husband's, he was a husbandman. He was a worker, a tiller of the ground. The mill, grinding at the mill, was generally a woman's work or a slave girl. They would typically have this as a job, or as a slave, it would be their service. Now, here's the point. Two men would be in the field. One would be taken, the other left. Two women would be grinding at the mill. One would be taken, one left. So there is two men and two women. And it doesn't take, a rocket scientist to read through the epistles, especially Paul, and understand that two men and two women are covenantally just loaded with significance. Two men represents Isaac and Ishmael. Okay, covenantally speaking. And notice this. It says there will be two men in the field. Go to Mark 13:30 and following, and you'll see that the field represents the world. It was the covenant world, the cosmos of Judaism. And Jesus said, prior to the end of the age, there would be both sons of the kingdom and sons of the evil one. There would be two seeds in the field. These two men represent two covenant seeds, Isaac and Ishmael. The sons of the kingdom, the righteous, and the sons of the evil one, the wicked seed. And he's telling his audience that through this judgment, at the end of the age, one covenant man would remain, the other covenant man would be taken. He would be destroyed. Well, that's exactly what we find in most of Jesus' parables. The kingdom will be taken from that natural man. They would be destroyed, and the kingdom would be given to a new people, a spiritual seed, a spiritual new covenant man. Mathew 21 and 22. Now, as concerning the women, 2 women will be grinding in the well. Well, again, all one has to do is read Paul's epistle to the Galatians to understand that 2 women covenantally represent 2 covenants. Paul, again, is telling his disciples, his audience, that through the coming of the Son of Man and the judgment of that covenant world at his coming, one covenant would be taken, another covenant would remain. One covenant world would vanish, a new covenant world would be fully established. One woman, Sarah, would remain. The other woman, Hagar, the old covenant, and her seed would be taken. This is what Jesus, I believe, is communicating beyond the surface level of just men and women, one taken, one remaining. He's talking covenantally. The judgment of Jerusalem was covenantal. It was eschatological. It was soteriological. It was covenantal to the core. And it would mean just this. It would mean the removal of the old sons of the old covenant kingdom and the full establishment and the revelation of the sons of God. It would also mean the removal of the old kingdom, that old woman, that slave woman who was in bondage with her children. And it would mean the full establishment and the full inheritance of the free woman, Sarah, the new covenant kingdom and her new covenant seed. This is what I believe Jesus is communicating right in the very context. The coming of the Son of Man would be as the days of Noah. The days of Noah meant the judgment and the removal of an old covenant world, the cosmos, the world of the ungodly that was destroyed. And on the other end of that judgment, what happened with Noah and his family, the righteous? They were brought out of that ark. They were brought out of that vehicle of salvation, and God renewed the covenant with them. He reiterated the same command and mandate he had given Adam, be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. And in Jesus Christ, at the end of the old covenant age, when that old covenant world was removed, what does that mean? It means game on. It means the mission and the mandate for man from the beginning that was lost through the fall was restored. Man in Christ is to be fruitful, to multiply, and to fill the earth, because the old covenant world of flesh has passed away, and the new covenant world, the world of the Spirit, the world in Christ, was fully established. And this took place at the end of the old covenant age through the coming of the Son of Man to establish his new covenant kingdom. That's what I've got for this video. I hope that was a blessing. We'll pick it up next time. We'll share more on the end of the world of flesh next time on Answers on Eschatology. Bye for now.